Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Credos of Windsor podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Sherdown, and today I'm sitting down with the Chief of Windsor Police, Jason Crowley.
Hi Anthony, how you doing?
Thank you very much for coming on.
Oh, my pleasure.
So I guess we'll start at the beginning. Why and how did you get into policing to begin with?
I have a brother who is now retired. He was a police officer probably 7 years before I was, so I was still in high school. And just saw how he got into it and the camaraderie and the work that him and his peers or his colleagues did. And it excited me, and it was something that I think naturally was gravitated to. My mom was a nurse and just kind of goes through our family a little bit that with service. But the brother influence was big.
Was being chief always a goal of yours?
No.
How did that come to be?
I guess timing's everything. I never once considered it up until, a handful of years ago. I think the further you go in the organization and promotions start happening, and next thing you know, you find yourself as an inspector, and you find yourself as a leader in the organization. You're relied upon as a leader in the organization. And next thing you know, I was a superintendent. And, then I thought, really, to be honest, that that was probably a superintendent because at the time, the chief at the time, we were about the same seniority. So I thought that chief will be around for a while. And then that chief retired. And then the last Chief Blair, came in. And again, I thought, well, he's going to be around for a while. And after a few years, he retired. And there was this opening. And then by that point, I was the deputy chief. And it kind of made sense. I wasn't ready to retire. I can retire, but I wasn't ready and still love what I do. And next thing you know, I'm the chief. So it just kind of happened organically. It wasn't something that I was, you don't think about that as a young constable going, I'm going to be chief one day. Because there's, very few people that only get to be chief. And you just don't think about that. But
how many officers do we have on the force at the moment?
Just over 500 sworn officers. And we have about 160-ish professional civilian employees. So we always, just like the mayor says, we're too big to be small and too small to be big, right?
Yeah.
So we are the 11th biggest police service in Ontario.
Wow.
And we punch above our weight every day. That's what I say, right?
So and that includes the Amherstburg officers as well, right?
It does.
Okay.
So there's 30 officers out in Amherstburg, and that's the complement that we have out there with the agreement with the town of Amherstburg. But that does include Amherstburg.
Okay, yeah, that's quite a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is a big part is that because of our population, or is it also play a part because we're a border city?
A little bit of both. There's the ratio is called the cop for pop is what in our circles is what they call it, and it's basically how many cops per 100,000 people, and that's a measurement across policing. So there's something that we do have so many police officers because of our population. When we talk about growth and we talk about growing our service, we have done that over the past few years at times, but it also has to do with, part of it is about being a border town. We have challenges that very few other cities have.
I was going to get into these challenges a little bit later into the podcast, but since we're talking about it now,
sure,
we might as well do it. What challenges do we face, and especially do you face as an organization that other police departments don't have to deal with?
Sure. So I go back to the late 90s, for instance, when I was on the road. And I was young and, all those things. And I always joked around, every night of the week, you had at least 2 or 3 bars with lineups. You had this vibrant downtown with a lot of, increased population, for instance. So like back then, you'd say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it was like Fort Lauderdale on March break in Windsor. You'd have an extra 20, 30,000 people because of our border, because especially before 9/11, the influx of Americans from Ohio, from Michigan, of course, was crazy how many people we would see. So just that alone was a challenge, and we still have this vibrant downtown life in our core, and we still see that, but maybe not to the extent of 25, 30,000 people, but there's still thousands and thousands of people every weekend that converge on our downtown. That makes it a police challenge to make sure everyone's safe, when we talk about public safety and patrolling that core area. It's a small area, but a lot of people in there. And then you mix some alcohol in there. And sometimes at the end of the nights, it kind of gets a little hairy. So that's one of our biggest challenges with the border, just that alone. But when you talk about, the border itself, we know that drugs does, flow through our border. Our CBSA officers do an amazing job, but they can only catch so much. And so drugs, firearms, a lot of our crime guns are coming from the States. So these are the challenges being on a border town. We talk about the riverfront, which now, of course, policing Amherstburg, it goes into Lake Erie. Mm-hmm. So we have a vast waterfront to patrol, and we only have 2 boats. Neither of them are really prepared or built to stand Lake Erie. That you need a more robust boat. So we do rely on the OPP. They have a boat station out in Amherstburg that is capable of going into Lake Erie if we need be. But these are the challenges, again, with the border that, and we've seen people try and swim across. We've seen people try and take small boats across to, smuggle drugs, smuggle people, whatever it is. Yeah. So these are the challenges. And of course, we have a very busy city, too. So now to try and police that, we rely on our partners a lot. Peter Barrett, the Port Authority, is a giant partner of ours, and he's a giant one-man show in the sense of he covers a lot of ground in patrol area just by himself for us. So it's a big help.
Do you work with Detroit police at all in terms of managing the border?
Not so much in terms of managing the border. The Detroit, the Michigan side, they have so many different agencies like Homeland Security and all these other things. Detroit police really doesn't have a whole lot, to my knowledge, with the border itself proper. Okay. But we do work with the Detroit police a lot. In fact, in the last probably year and a half, we've really increased our relationship. We've really improved it. And not that it was bad, it just wasn't really more non-existent, but we've really made an effort on both sides to say, hey, we're partners here, let's work together. So we sit on a lot of joint committees when it comes to everything from fireworks night right up to everything from, we have a shipwrighter program, which does allow our officers to go into U.S. waters. So there's all kinds of joint management teams that we do work with directly with Detroit police.
I remember a few years ago, just a sensational story, when somebody was trying to smuggle drugs and they had a submarine. Yep. So are you guys dealing with that? Or who deals with that?
I think we do deal with that a lot. Okay. We rely on people and the information that they feed us. Like we get that a lot. We'll get, hey, we just saw this weird kind of looking boat or weird, it just doesn't seem, right. They'll call us. Like I said, Peter Barry is a big proponent of that security, him and his team. And like I said, our marine officers, our patrol officers are down there at the water. Sometimes it's part of their patrol duties. So it's a little bit of everything. Okay. And Detroit, again, they do their own thing too. They have all kinds of security, and you can imagine, the States, they're so much, so advanced in their security. And of course, the way they handle things. So I'd say it's a really good team effort.
Do you work with the RCMP quite a bit in our area?
So the RCMP here, they have an office right on Riverside Drive at Jefferson, and I can't say we work with them quite a bit. So their footprint is smaller than it used to be here. Okay. I know years ago they had a drug squad here. They had more investigators. I know that they also have a Marine unit coming out of that station. They have some investigators there, but we don't do a lot of, people of Windsor aren't going to see RCMP cars driving around like when you go out to British Columbia or Alberta or, Manitoba in most cities. Those are like the OPP out there. They're the city police in sense in those provinces, or the provincial police in sense, even though they're the federal police. So you won't see that here because of our footprint here in Windsor. So they do have other investigative agencies within that, and we will work with them, maybe on projects or if they need our help with something, if we need their help with something, but it's not an everyday relationship. And like I said, certainly you're not going to see an RCMP car driving around Windsor. Yeah,
we have enough police presence through Windsor Police and then the OPP that they focus more on, investigations and stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. You spent a lot of your career in SWAT, correct?
That's right. That's true.
Did you enjoy that?
I loved it. Yeah.
What is the main role of a SWAT officer?
So I mean, everyone knows the term SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics is what it really stands for. In Canada, we typically call it a tactical team, but SWAT is the same. It's nothing wrong with the term. The main role is the tactical officers deal with the very high end, like tactical calls that they have advanced training, advanced weaponry. They have advanced numbers. They can work as a team quite often. And the high risk situations is what we're talking about. So anywhere from a barricaded gunman or a barricaded person with a weapon, possibly a mental health, high risk call. It could be anything. It could be a regular call. A lot of these calls start as regular calls, say like intimate partner violence, for instance, and then it's a hostage taking. And we don't really, label it as a hostage taking, but if someone has a weapon and they've got somebody forcibly confined in a house, then we're going to send our tactical unit out because again, they have the numbers, they have the weaponry, they have everything from snipers to breachers to tear gas to all these things that people, you see it on TV, but we have those capabilities here, and anything that's super high risk that they're going to be called out for. On top of, when we're looking for real high risk offenders, like people wanted for homicide, dangerous offenders, repeat offenders that are just so dangerous that, again, because we have the numbers on the tactical team and the weaponry and the training, that just general patrol officers aren't going to be typically going to those calls. Okay.
We have Windsor Police has that armored vehicle, correct?
Yeah.
And is that the tactical team that has that vehicle?
That's right.
Okay. I'm assuming there's a lot of extensive training when you're on that team?
For sure. I mean, they train at least once a week as a team, and then there's specialty training, like everything from sniper training to specialty firearms to less lethal training to rappel training to hostage rescue training. So there's all kinds of training that goes on in that unit over the month. But they will, when there's nothing really just going on tactically or not training, they're out there answering calls for service on the road as well. You don't find that in bigger cities like Toronto or Montreal or things like that. But most cities have to have that dual duty just to make ends meet kind of thing. So when we have those officers available, they're out on the road answering regular calls too.
Are they wearing a regular uniform and driving the regular cars around too for that?
No, okay. They're always dressed, and you'll see the TAC team here dresses in gray because they are different. They look different. They have different uniforms, and they have to be ready at all times. Something could come in any minute, and so if they're out and doing a regular, say it could be a dog bite complaint, and then they could have a call come in. They have to be ready. So within minutes, they're on the way to this high-end call or high-risk call that they have to be prepared for. So they're always in their trucks, and they're always in their gray uniforms, and that's how do they distinguish just that look of them.
What role did you play when you were on that team?
Well, I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time on there. I was a constable for about 9 years on that team. So as a new constable, you go through a lot of the just like any kind of rank-based system. You're when you're at the bottom, you're doing a lot of almost anything you're asked to do, right? So it's called an operator. I was a regular operator for a long time. And after a few years, I moved into a sniper position. So I was a sniper for I don't know how many years, but a few at least. Yeah. Moved into a team leader position for a while. And then once I was a sergeant, I left the team for a bit to go work somewhere else. I came back as a sergeant. And I worked there for 5 years or so as a sergeant. So now you're leading the team, you're the supervisor, and there's 2 sergeants on that team now. There was then 2, but so I was a sergeant for a while, 5 years, and then when I got promoted to staff sergeant, I spent some time in patrol, just with the platoon, and then back to tactical team for a little bit before my next promotion came a little while later. Yeah.
I love sniper movies. I love sniper video games. I'm a big fan of the movie American Sniper. Obviously, It's a fantastic movie. Whenever I watch movies like that and they're on their stomach for multiple hours at a stand-up, I'm sure you had to do that a lot over the years.
Yes.
Doesn't that hurt?
It doesn't hurt, but it can get boring because you have to be awake, and I don't mean it like versus asleep, but I mean you have to be really alert is I guess the better term, because you're the eyes and ears of the team at that time. Because a lot of times the the rest of the team might be very close to the structure or whatever, and they can't see, say, in the windows, and you're really the eyes of the team to let them know, hey, there's somebody in that window. There's the curtains just closed here. That they're in that. Like, so a lot of times when there is entries to be made, the sniper is the one that's telling the team where the person may be in that house just by their observations. And then there's the cold. Then you're lying there for hours and hours. Once you get cold, you're cold. I don't care what you're wearing, we tried everything, trust me. And once you're cold, but you just have to get past that because you have a job to do, right?
Yeah. Is there always, when you're the sniper and you're watching and just waiting for is there always somebody next to you kind of helping out as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's called a spotter, right? So you might spell each other off a little bit because you're both technically snipers.
Okay.
At least in Windsor. So if you and I were partners, you might be my spotter for an hour or two, and then we might flip it up. And then I can be your spotter. I can shake it out a little bit and get my, refocus. And then while you do the more of the focusing and the harder of the jobs, right?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Thinking about that, you said peeking through curtains, and it just passed through my mind, everybody has cameras now and has all this technology at their hands, and it's easy to get. How has technology changed over your career? Probably the most of any police career ever because of the generation that you were a police officer in.
Absolutely. So yeah, no doubt about it. When I think back 33 years ago, we really had no technology, very little at least, especially in a patrol division. You had a radio and you had a set of keys and you went out for the day and you hand bombed reports and the papers were 5 papers thick and they were carbon paper and you had to push hard to make sure they went all the way through, and then you made a mistake and you had to start over. So it was difficult for that. But the biggest technology change, I think, is the evolution of DNA. So we have cold cases that are 100 years old or 80 years old, and the officers back then had no idea, obviously, that in 100 years we're going to be able to use this as evidence or investigate something further that we cannot investigate today. So when and again, TV shows, you think, CSI and all these things, this is legitimate, investigative technologies that we use now that even 40 years ago, we couldn't solve a homicide. Like, we've now been able to solve cold cases that just 10, 15 years ago, we couldn't solve because of that advancement. So we're always looking at, and again, you go back to the 100 years when they go, somehow they had the foresight to seize all this property. And they probably just said, we're going to take everything. And who knows why, because they couldn't use it, or really, with the technology back then. And then now we still have all that. We keep it. And now we can revisit blood from a homicide like 80 years ago. And we can come up with a profile from that now. So that's a big one. And then, of course, the use of computers. And the officers, what they have in cars now at their fingertips with their computers. And now, of course, typing their own reports. And it's just now getting further and further with AI and so much more to come with possible facial recognition and cameras and drones as first responders. Like, this is how fast it's moving. It took us a while to get there, but like anything, even like the internet, it's just changing so much, so rapidly now. It's hard to keep up.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember the last time we spoke, you mentioned, I think you said for cases, for evidence, you have to keep homicide and sexual assault evidence forever, right?
Forever.
How do you guys have enough space to keep all that stuff?
That's a problem. We have a retention schedule for everything. Officers are constantly getting reminders about, hey, you have some evidence. Can we get rid of it? Or do we need to keep it? Is court done? Like, these are the things that officers have to keep on top of when they get these notifications, because we have a very big property room. We have a lot of storage, a lot of space, but a lot of it's taken up. And with big things, like there's things like bikes and tools and things that we auction off quarterly, I think it is.
Okay.
But things like bloody clothes and all these things, we have refrigerators and freezers that are huge down in our basement that just keep all this evidence. and space is definitely a problem. But we're managing now, and we just keep trying to create more space, I suppose, or do a better job of what we do keep. But some of those things, there's the retention is forever.
I'm sure being able to solve 80-year-old murders helps get rid of stuff.
It does.
You can go through and clean it out.
It does. But just the fact that we can solve those 80-year-old murders is pretty amazing. So, and it's closure for the family. It's all these things that we're able to do for people that our investigators are thrilled to do when they do it.
I think it was probably one of the most popular cases that you guys solved a few years ago. That's yours, by the way. I know I didn't tell you. It was the case from, I think my dad was a toddler, the early 70s on Drouillard with that little girl.
That's right.
And you guys solved that a couple years ago, right?
That's right. And we used DNA technology and profiling DNA profiles and basically family lineage. And our investigator that did that is now a staff sergeant, and it was cutting technology at the time, and now it's everywhere. And I think that those again, it was a great example of revisiting something that we had DNA from 50 some years ago, and they used it, and because the evolution of DNA technology, and so they were able to come up with a family profile, and from there they narrowed it down through these companies that you yourself can send your own that DNA profile and get your family history. So the same technology was used, and it was amazing that we were able to put closure to that case for that family.
Wow, that's really interesting. That's crazy. That just that much. How much? What was it? 50 years later, probably.
Yeah, it's the early 70s, and I would say it was probably 7 or 8 years ago now that was that case was closed. So it's amazing. And again, the foresight of the officers then just to hold all this stuff, again, for what reason, I don't know, because there's nothing they could have done with it except hold it. But not knowing that one day we'll have the ability to look at this and really do something with it. So just amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yep. So now that's the positives to the technology. Are you seeing criminals use technology against you guys?
Of course. So we have counter surveillance, these organized crime that does a lot of counter surveillance on us, from anything from, could be something as simple as mobile surveillance in cars with cameras, to drones, to like all these things are available. And just like anything, if you don't think they're not using it on us, you're not really putting your mind to something. But of course they are. That's what they're, organized crime and things like that. They are definitely using technology to their ability, just like we are. Yep. And that's just the nature of the business, right?
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like, I have Ring cameras at the house, and we had a false alarm. I'm sorry. You guys were here in 3 minutes. Yeah. That's incredible. And that's just a private company, right? And then they just kind of work through whatever police is in the area, and it just kind of works like that?
Well, yeah. So you can register we have a program where people can register their cameras with us. And we don't have access to your cameras. And that's something that I think people think, well, I don't want the police to be looking at my cameras. Well, we can't. But what we can do is you can register, so we know that you have cameras here. So if, first of all, something happens in your neighborhood, we can call you or come to see you right away. Hey, I know your cameras. Did they pick up anything? Or if you called us and say, hey, there was something going on in my neighborhood, or something happened in my house, we can just send you a link, say, can you send it to us? We don't have to even come here anymore. You send us this link for the video, and that's what we can see. We can't see anything else, but you can register with us, and it helps us. And as far as cameras being hooked to alarm companies, yes, sure. They just like a regular burglar alarm in your house or business, they will contact us and say, hey, there's an alarm going on at this house or something with the cameras, and they dispatch us. So
the linked cameras so I pay whatever the fee Windsor Police charges every year to have my things monitored, and that's why you don't get charged for false alarms.
Sure.
Is that different than what you're talking about, where you monitor the cameras or have access to the cameras if you need to?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's kind of same in the sense of, we know that when you would have cameras, because there's no way, especially now with Blink and all these other ones, there's no way that we would know who has a camera on their house unless they tell us. Or if something happens in your neighborhood and our officers are doing a canvass, which is age-old policing, you literally door to door, say, oh, look, there's cameras here. Maybe they got some. Oh, look, there's cameras next door. So now we offer this registry. Say, hey, look, 123, First Street. I have a camera. Here's my address. Here's my contact information, and we just register it. So we know. Say, hey, look, something happened in this block. Let's go take a look or see if they have any footage. So it's kind of wrapped in the sense of with your registering your alarm. It is and it isn't. Okay. But it's all kind of the same program.
Yeah.
But it's about awareness piece for us, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah. So you guys work pretty closely with paramedics and firefighters, right?
Yeah.
We have that hockey game every year.
Yeah.
You guys won this year?
We did win. Yeah. It was a great game. And, it was, the real winner really is the community there, because, we raised, just under $200,000 for local cancer research. And that stays local with, at the university. They have a great cancer research center. And we were super happy to do it. And, I had nothing to do with it. I wish I could have said that, but honestly, the officers and the firefighters that put it together did an amazing job. They put their heart into it, and it was a great game to boot. So,
what does the losing chief have to do again? You have to wash each other's car.
Well, we had a little bet, and we kind of threw around a few things and what would be fun to do for the friendly wager, right? You see, for the Super Bowl, and mayors and all these things get together. So we thought it'd be fun. So since we won, we brought a few of our cars over to the fire hall downtown, and they had to wash our cars. And one of them might have been that personnel carrier that was maybe pretty muddy that day, and it's pretty big. And but the fire personnel were so good about it, and they washed our cars for us, and then they had made us soup. So we had a lunch together, and it's a great camaraderie. All three agencies, the three chiefs, in fact. Very good friends, Chief Waffle from Windsor Fire Rescue Services and Chief Lammers from EMS. I challenged them to do the polar plunge with me this year. And they jumped at it. So we did it together. We did the, fire kind of really relies on cancer fundraising for there, because they have so many, unfortunately, so many cases of workplace related cancers. So they Chief Waffle challenged us to rappel a couple weeks ago at Show Us Your Brave event downtown for cancer. Yeah. So we did that, and now we're waiting for the next challenge from EMS. So very good for friendships, very good working relationships, and so this is something we're super proud of.
It's probably great for all of your officers and everybody else to see the chiefs interacting like that, right? And then when they're on the road together, they can.
I think so. I think to be honest, like from my recollection, we've always had really good relationships with all the services. But I think when our officers see not only the camaraderie, the work that we do together, the working relationships, I just think it's nothing but positive. And then like the hockey game was a great example of the two services, the officers and the firefighters coming together for a common goal. And I think that just says a lot about those people, those members, because they see that thing at the end of the tunnel with that. This is for the community. And, this is what we do. We serve the community. And, that's just part of it.
Yeah.
That extension of what we do for our jobs is serving the community.
So to become chief, how does that work? Who elects you and chooses position?
The police are governed by police boards.
Okay.
So we have a 7-member board that is made up of everybody from a community member to provincial appointees from the government to city council members. That's designated by legislation and who can be on the board. And so we have the 7-member board. It's chaired by the mayor at this time right now. And they govern the police service.
Okay.
They don't. They have nothing to do with operations other than knowledge of it. Like they can't. Their job is and their role is not to direct the chief to go out to your street and do whatever. That's not what they do. They are about finances. They are about governance. They are about policy. They're about selecting a chief and a deputy chief. So that's, to answer your question, that's who it was. The board runs a competition. They open up to across Canada, and that's what they did. And people applied from outside of Windsor for sure.
Oh, wow.
Highly sought after positions, deputy chiefs and chiefs. And I somehow was the lucky candidate. So they chose me, but there were so many good candidates, and anybody I'm sure could have done a great job.
Is your deputy chief right now, has he been with Windsor Police the whole career as well?
Yes. So we have 2 deputies in Windsor, and most, mid to large size services have at least 2 deputies.
Okay.
So one of our deputies is Carl DeGraff. He is on the administrative support side of the house. So he oversees everything from training to professional standards to finance to like HR and things like that. So this is his kind of umbrella. And the other one is what I came from, was operations. So that operations deputy is in charge of basically all the uniforms you see on the street, all the investigators, and anything that comes out of true operations.
Okay.
So that deputy spot is being filled as we speak. There's a competition right now going on for deputy chief, but we do have an actor in there right now. And so, again, they've both been with Windsor their whole careers.
Okay.
And it's we have been very lucky in the sense of my whole career. We've always had pretty much internal candidates for all those positions. There was one in the late 90s. We had a chief from Montreal come in for a while. But other than that, they've been pretty much internal. And, there's pros and cons for all of it. But, we're very lucky we have skilled people that can come in and lead the organization and do a great job.
It must be nice to work so closely with people that you've worked with for 30 years, though, right?
Of course. I mean, like you said earlier, we're too big to be small, too small to be big. We're small enough to really know everybody pretty much. And, especially as I got upper in the upper ranks of our organization, you really make an effort to try and know people, know your people. You try and, you know their kids and, whether they're in baseball or hockey or whatever it is. Those are the things that are important to people because family is everything. Mm-hmm. And just it goes the same way with your colleagues. So the fact that I know Carl DeGraff since he got on the job is an important piece. We worked together on the tactical team for a while. When I left the rope squad, he took my spot. He went to some more investigations than I did. But then we, come back as senior officers, and then now he's the deputy chief. And just same with Ken Crowley, he's our acting deputy of operations right now. I've known Ken, he got on 6 months after I did, and we've been friends since that time. So it's a huge benefit to know how someone works, to know about them, to know their families. It's a family, and people say that a lot about policing. Oh, it's a family. Well, it truly is, and this is part of it, knowing your people.
Yeah, I could imagine officers in New York and LA. You probably run into your, coworkers on the street and hi, nice to meet you.
Yeah, and it's true, and even there's 2 aspects of that. We hear it all the time. You go somewhere at a conference or a course or something, and someone from Toronto, oh, do you know so and so? It's like, well, there's 5,000 officers there. I don't know. Not a chance. I mean, there's very rarely you do run into someone that might know someone that But and the other piece is big services like that run into a high end call. I remember, I don't know, it's quite a while ago, probably almost 20 years ago. There was a shooting at a Union Station. In Toronto, right outside. It was a hostage taking, actually. And there was officers showing up there in plain clothes with guns out, and those officers don't know each other. If someone shows up at a scene, I'm going to know it's a Windsor police officer, no matter how they're dressed. And that can be challenging for police, right? And at the time, tactical teams were wearing blue uniforms. Well, so were dog handlers. So were boat people wearing these a different color blue than you'll see on the street. So it was I remember that call specifically. It was, the TAC team's here. Well, it wasn't. It was the dog handlers. So that's why tactical teams went to gray shortly after that, to be really identifiable as, that is the tactical team there.
On the dogs, I'm a big dog person. I have a German Shepherd. You are too?
Oh, 2 boxers.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We have a German Shepherd and a Chihuahua.
Oh, wow. That's quite a combination.
Yeah. And my wife is a dog groomer, but she also is a vet tech, and she just works, just a day a week now, but she works at BRAC, and I know that a lot of the officers take their dogs there. Yep. Do you know how many dogs do you guys have on the force?
I think we have 5.
Okay.
We have a permanent trainer right now that is I'm going to say the best in the province, if not the country. We have a great dog program. People come here to train their dogs.
Okay.
We run courses and we accept canines from all over Ontario. That being said, like there are great dog programs everywhere in policing in Ontario, but we're so proud of ours, and our handlers are, and I've said it a million times, they are probably one of the most committed officers to their duties, because that's what these officers do. And they literally are with them 24/7. They become part of the family, essentially. They're not treated like a family dog. They are a working dog. And that's part of their success. But when they retire, they go and live with that family as a family dog. Yeah. These are high energy dogs that want to work. So it's pretty amazing to see how our handlers work with these dogs, and the intelligence of these dogs and the commitment in their training is unbelievable.
Yeah, my wife says when those dogs come in, there's a lot of appointments where the owners are not allowed in the room. Mm-hmm. That is not the case when it's police dogs.
Oh no, they have to be for sure. And that's truly part of the success. Like I said, is that this is a working dog. This is someone this is an animal who is is prepared to do anything that they tell them, and they're so smart and so good with it. When watching them work and do demonstrations for the community, or when I go to the training branch and I watch them train, there's an obstacle course out there. I'm amazed every single time. And I can't get my dog to come in some days when they it's whatever, I want them to come in from the backyard, and it's hard for me to get them in the house. And then to watch what they do, it's outstanding.
Yeah, one of the dogs, it was a few years ago now, I think his name was Rolex, and he was new, and he got hurt. Somebody kicked him or something, and it was in the paper. Yep. And I remember texting my wife, I'm like, if he comes in, let me know if he's okay. And he did. He went in, and she's like, yeah, he's fine, or whatever.
Yeah, it's true. Like it's people love our dog. And there was a while when I first started, we didn't have a dog unit. Before I got on the job, there was a dog unit way back in the day, and then I really don't even know how or why, but it was kind of abandoned for a while, and then it was reinstituted in the mid '90s. And ever since then, we've just had this super successful program that just is, it's impressive, to be honest.
Are they on the street every day, or is it more special things that they come out for?
They're like the tactical team, like I said earlier. They're out there answering calls, and they might do a little bit more support calls. Like, so they might not get dispatched to like report calls that might take a couple hours or something, but they're going to go and back up a lot of officers. They do a lot of that support work. Okay. So there'll be backup cars, helping other officers out. But they're training at least one day a week too. They have training weeks that they have to attend to keep that skill up, right? Yeah. So, and they have to be very careful of how they take their vacation because they're always working with those dogs. So when they do take vacation or their days off, they're out there. I've seen our own handlers on their own time in parks training their dogs. I've seen it myself. So it's a commitment that nobody else in the service is asked to do.
Yeah, for sure. Do they go to their house and just live not in the house, or do you guys keep them somewhere else while they're working?
They live with the family. They have a kennel outside. That's, in fact, when they're chosen as handlers, not only is there an interview and a physical, there's a home visit. And we make sure that their home is set up correctly to house a dog, especially a dog of this caliber and this this working, hard-working, high-energy dog. If someone lives in an apartment, it's not going to work. Yeah. So they need space for a kennel. They need space to help train, all these things. So it's part of the selection process, but definitely needs to be part of that family makeup.
Yeah, for sure. We're going to get away from policing just for a minute. Okay. This is the Creatives of Windsor podcast. I have had a lot of politicians on lately and things like that, but everybody makes up our community. But you are also a musician.
Yes.
And you have been your whole life?
Yes, since I was a little boy, yeah.
And are you currently in a band right now?
No. Okay. The last time I was actually in a band, formally in a band, was probably about 15 years ago, but we had been together for 30 years. And we stopped playing. Work we're all had started to have families and all these things, and work was work, and it was always priority. And I actually had some throat problems from singing in smoky bars back when you could smoke in bars for a lot of years. I never smoked myself, but I might as well have, I suppose. So I had problems with my singing. I had to have surgery on my vocal cords. So these are things that we couldn't do it anymore. So we just basically took a break, but that didn't even last long because we would end up getting together, do some charity work at least once or twice a year, and just more for fun than anything. And so that lasted quite a while. So yeah, just not physically in a band right now, but still always playing.
What kind of music did you guys play?
Well, over 30 years, we played a lot of different music, but so back like in the 80s, it's like kind of now where 80s, 90s music is big now. It's back in the 80s, 60s music was big. So a lot of bands were playing 60s music. But then, we kind of advanced. We went through a section, we did some blues, and then we went into more mainstream when we were playing the bars late, the last part of our, probably the last 10 years, we were playing a lot of like Tragically Hip and, anything from, we had a female singer as well. So we were doing a lot of Pink and Sheryl Crow and anything that was, you basically hear on the radio or in bars at the time, we were playing it.
When you're playing on stage, you're at a bar, people are partying and drinking. Do you ever, or just when you're a civilian in general, do you ever have to step in as a police officer when you're just on the street?
You know what? That's a good question. I can't off the top of my head think I ever had to, but I probably did. It was so long. I probably did, but it was nothing major, maybe break up a fight or something, I'm sure. But it was always a concern of mine because, you're worried about a lot of things. And when you look at a police eye, from a police eye or police lens, you look at it differently. So up there, you're seeing everything. And, you might see someone that's really drinking a lot, or you might see something starting in a corner of a bar going, okay, that doesn't look right. Where no one else on stage with me is seeing that, but it's I'm looking at that going, I'm going to keep my eye on that. So yeah, definitely, it's that police lens never leaves you. I always kind of laugh at, I remember my wife saying something to me once about seeing val tags on cars, like that it was expired. And I'm like, how do you see that? I'm like, because you do. You just do. It's just something you look for. I don't know. It's one of those weird police things, right?
Have you ever been out in public with your family, just any time in the last 30 years where you've seen something illegal happen or something that was more, I guess, drastic than just a sticker? Obviously, you're not going to do anything off duty for that. But.
Oh, yeah. There's no doubt that's happened. In fact, there's a really funny story. Probably about 10, 11 years ago, my kids I was picking them up they were at music lessons in Windsor, and we were coming down the road. And as we turned, I was on the way to run another errand. And as we turned, there was a fight on the corner. And this really big guy was fighting this really little guy. And I'm like, that's not going to end well. And people are literally with their cameras just videoing it. And I stopped, and my kids were probably about 10 at the time. And they were like freaking out, going, what are you doing? I said, someone's got to stop this. And I get out of the car and I went over there. And the funny part is the story, and not the fight wasn't funny. We stopped the fight. Everybody was fine. The police ended up being called and came. But the funny part was, with all the video going on, it went viral. Like, that video was everywhere for a long time. And there was actually a parody of the video locally, which was hilarious, actually. There was somebody sent me a link from the show in like San Francisco or Seattle, way out west. And it made like this video show. And it was everywhere. So the lesson there was, as a police officer, you're always on camera, right? But I didn't think of it. I knew how to stop and step in. Someone's really going to get hurt here. And that's happened a handful of times for sure.
Do you tell them you're a police officer? Yeah, you do.
You can't, because you got to go in there and tell them, because if someone thinks you're just either trying to join the fight or break it up, it doesn't go very well sometimes. Even if you tell them you're a police officer, sometimes they just don't hear it. The auditory exclusion, you're in a fight, you're not listening. But you have to, you're putting yourself on duty, essentially saying, I'm here as a police officer, I'm going to help how I can and take care of that.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. What are some probably a good place to end it. What are your key responsibilities as chief? I know you went over what the responsibilities were of your deputy chiefs, but what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
What day is it? I don't even know what day it is. You know what? It changes all the time. I mean, but here's my thing. Policing, and I'm in charge of our entire service. Essentially, it starts with me, ends with me. Our job is public safety. No matter what that looks like, our job is public safety. So we have to determine as a team, And, essentially it may be direction from me, maybe direction from our team, but we had, as a team, decide, but how that looks. What does public safety look like in our city? And how are we going to go about it? Okay. As a chief, I look at our members. If our members aren't well, they can't do the job of public safety. They can't. And when I started, we didn't talk about wellness. We didn't talk about, hey, how you feeling today? Or you went to that call last night, that was pretty bad. How you feeling today? We didn't talk about that at all. You just went and did it. And we saw over the years across the province, bad things happen to people that didn't know how to deal with those bad things they saw. There's some stat, and I don't know how relevant it is, but when you hear that, how many hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of critical incidents police officers go through in a career, and the average person sees a handful in their whole life. Maybe, yeah. And this is something that changes you as a person, and that's what people, I don't think, really see. And I don't think some of our officers see it, but people do change in this job. You have no choice to, because you see people on their worst day sometimes, and you see the worst of people, and you see the worst things that happen to people. And it's truly things that stick with you, and you have to be able to be resilient. And that's my point is my job to see people and make sure they're okay is part of my job, so they can do their job. And, on top of that, you have things like finance, and you have a budget to go by. You have a community to answer to when you're spending money. You have a board and a city council to say, hey, look, this is where we're going. And there's expectations from our community that I have to. So I guess the answer to the question truly is it changes by the hour some days. I said it starts and ends with me, and it truly does. Like, at the end of the day, I might not have anything to do with something, but it's still my problem.
Yeah.
My fault, my whatever it is, it falls under me. So that's the way I look at it. Everything is really mine.
What are some of the biggest safety concerns in Windsor right now that people might not recognize?
So yeah, you'll hear a lot of people talk about downtown, not safe. And for years I've been showing people data in the media and going to them, look, our downtown is safe. It is. People don't feel safe. That's the difference. There's a difference. And there's a reason why people don't feel safe. And we have a homeless population that people, there's no evidence of being unsafe around them, but they just don't, not used to it. They don't like it, whatever it is. But people don't feel safe. So we're trying to change that. But the safety concerns we're really talking about right now, we've seen a huge spike in drunk driving, in drug driving. 233% increase over the last year in drug driving.
Wow.
Crazy.
Is that including cannabis and illegal drugs?
Everything.
Okay.
Everything, yeah. Any kind of drug. So huge concern. I mean, people are on the roads not understanding the increase. It's a big problem. We don't have the issues like bigger cities have with these stolen cars, people breaking into houses and stealing your keys. We haven't seen that, thank goodness. Our officers do a great job with intelligence and things like that. And but we just haven't seen that yet. But we have these things that people don't understand about human trafficking, and of course drugs is so prevalent, and we just do what we can with managing that. But these are the safety concerns that keep me up at night, to be honest, because it's just something that it doesn't end. Right? And what do we do to protect our people?
Human trafficking is much more prevalent in our area because of the border, right?
The border is a big part of it. The literal pipeline of the 401 right to bigger cities like Toronto and where a lot of these people are based out of. They'll come to Windsor and be anonymous, maybe live in a small hotel for a week or two or whatever it is. And we don't even know they're there until we finally get some complaint or we go to a call. And by the time we understand what's going on, they're gone. Or, we have victims that are highly uncooperative because they're afraid, or they're addicted to drugs. Like this is a problem that is very big here, and people don't understand the enormity of it. And we are throwing resources at it as best we can. We're working with our investigators, with the government to combat it. The provincial government's funded a position for us. So it's a big problem.
Yeah. Is there anything that an average person that isn't involved in drugs or anything bad can do to stay aware?
I think just that whole, if you see something, say something thing, it applies to so much. If you see something that just isn't right, I think that's a good awareness piece. Like, you just, something in my gut's telling me that's just not right. There's nothing wrong with making a call to our non-emergency number, or if it's a 911 call 911.
Yeah.
And just say, hey, this is what I see. It just doesn't look right. And we'll investigate it. It's it's a difficult thing for people to be aware of something that's not in their world. It just is like, you have a life that you've built, and you did the right things as you grew up, and things like that. You're a good member of a society and a community, and it's hard to know that this stuff goes on because you had no part in it. It does, but not to the extent, right? It's just difficult for people to really be aware of the enormity of some of the problems.
What do you? This is the last question I want to ask. What do you wish people could see behind the scenes of policing?
Love the question. You know what? I think that the police side of it, you have how busy police services are, because not only the expectation is big of what we do now, because we deal with mental health, we deal with addiction, we deal with homelessness. That when I started, we didn't deal with any of that. But that's the obvious piece that people, they see it, I think, but not to the extent. When we started our nurse police teams, the nurses couldn't believe what we were dealing with on the street, because they came out there and went, holy smokes, like, I can't believe what the police are dealing with. But the piece I really would love people to see is the dedication to this community that our officers have. And I'm not talking so much even about police work, because that is a no-brainer for me. They're dedicated like crazy. It's the volunteerism. It's the coaching. It's the working at seniors' homes. It's the working with Goodfellows. It's the working with community organizations, sitting on boards with social services. We all do it. And I think it's the most admirable thing that somebody can give back to their community by doing. And, the community has no way of seeing that. But if they knew how much that goes on, and the dedication of our officers to this community, and not just our officers, our professional civilians as well, it's amazing to see the commitment. And I said it, and I said this when I was sworn in as police chief. I said, for a community has given me so much, it's time for me to give back. And I've been doing that for over 30 years. But now, when you realize you get older, this community has given me personally so much, given my family so much. It's always time for me to give back, and that's where our officers are at. They give back every single day. It's amazing.
I think that's a fantastic place to end it. Thank you so much for coming on. That was
absolutely
a great chat.
My pleasure.
All right, thanks for watching, everybody.